plant nerds, just wanted to talk today quickly about propagating peppers by cuttings. It may not be one of the things that is top most of mind to propagate that way, but I have a beautiful fish pepper behind me that I need to get a cutting of, and so I thought I would show you how to do that. So if you're new around here, hi, I'm Kiri. I am a micro homesteader in Zone 5B, and on this channel we talk about growing food indoors hydroponically as well as outdoors in the garden and other ways that you can become more self-sufficient and reduce your reliance on the grocery store. And if you've been here for more than a minute or two, you probably heard me talk about my love of all things variegated. It's one of the reasons that I got the fish pepper. It's also got an amazing history, and that's one of the reasons that I love growing heirloom seeds. So I'm just gonna get down ye old seed box because I want to share the story of fish pepper with you. Because for me, one of the reasons that I love growing heirloom seeds is because I love sharing their stories and perpetuating the varieties on and sharing their stories. So that's what we're going to do quickly. And then we will get into propagating peppers. That is the fish pepper. It's an African-American heirloom, popular in the Philadelphia, Baltimore region. It's a chili pepper notable for its unique history. The fish pepper more than likely originated in the Caribbean and was introduced to the mid-Atlantic region in the 1870s, where it gained a strong foothold in the oyster and crab houses of the area. The young cream-colored peppers were used for an added kick to creamy sauces that top seafood. The pepper was kept as a secret ingredient in the dishes and its part in recipes handed down orally. The peppers were grown exclusively by black farmers and fell out of favor in the 1900s as the people of that era began to embrace a more urban lifestyle. This one-of-a-kind pepper would be lost to us if not for an unusual exchange. Horace Pippin was a black folk painter who served during World War I in the 369th Infantry, called the Harlem Hellfighters. He lost the use of his right arm after being shot by a sniper, and this left him with arthritic pain. Searching for some sort of relief, he resorted to an old folk remedy that called for bee stings. Horace began giving seeds to a beekeeper named H. Ralph Weaver. Horace's seeds sometimes came from his far-flung old-time gardening friends, who sent wonderful and rare varieties. H. Ralph Weaver saved the seed in his private collection, where it remained until 1995, when his grandson, William Woys Weaver, released it to the public. Every fish pepper sold today can be traced back to that fateful exchange. That's just so cool. The peppers that I'm going to be growing behind me are traced back to that one exchange. I don't know. I'm such a nerd for this stuff. I just love that. I love that I can be part of keeping that tradition alive and sharing the story with you guys, and maybe even making it so that you guys want to grow this pepper and share that story and all of that history. Apart from me nerding out, we need to talk about propagating peppers. One of the things that I noticed behind me when I was looking at my fish pepper is that there is a single branch coming off, a side shoot. Every single leaf has the most perfect variegation on it. One of the things that you have to keep in mind when you're seed saving is you always want to keep seeds from the best plant with the best genetics. Because I have this beautiful branch, I'm going to take a cutting and root it, and we'll talk about that in a second. And then that will be the one that I save the seeds from, because I really want to keep that variegation going. So I'm going to flip the camera in a second and I will show you said beautiful fish pepper. We will experiment as well, because I love a good experiment. I have this ProMix rooting solution, stem root. It's supposed to be very good for helping cuttings to root. The other thing that you can use, I've heard, is cinnamon. We will take 2 cuttings off of the same plant. I think I'm going to put my precious one into the stem root, and hopefully that's not a mistake. Okay, so this one in the front is my fish pepper, and this main plant looks pretty regular. And then there's the one leaf here that has the beautiful variegation, but down here, that is the stem that I want. It is gorgeous. We don't have any budding on it yet, which is the kind of the perfect time, because when you're looking for cuttings, you want to make them about 3 to 5 inches long, and you don't want any branches that have flowers or peppers or buds on them, because we really need this to focus on growing roots and not putting its energy into growing flowers or peppers or anything like that. First, we'll have a quick talk about cleaning our tools, and then we will get into the actual cutting. Before you cut a single thing, you are going to need a good set of pruners. I'll put a link down below to the ones that I use, but any ones will do. The most important thing is that they are sharp, and even more important than that, that they are clean. So we're going to use some isopropyl alcohol. I have some paper towel. So I don't use a lot of this stuff, but I do use it for certain things. Typically, I use my Norwex cloths. If you're in Canada and you're curious about Norwex, or if you love it already, I'll put a link down below to where you can get Norwex. Paper towel, and you need to clean it in between each cut, just to make sure that we are not passing on any diseases or anything from the one cut to the other. So we'll just give those a quick wipe. Put the lid on so I don't spills it all over the floor. And now we are going to go and cut the branch. We want to cut it on a 45-degree angle, and we want to make sure that the piece that we're going to have afterwards is about 3 to 5 inches long. We don't want it too big and gangly, because it's also, we want it to have its energy concentrated on growing the roots, and we don't want a huge long branch where it's trying to distribute the water and doing everything throughout a larger space. So smaller is better. And we are going to want to make the cut right below one of the branches, the leaf nodes, and then we'll remove those leaves afterwards. But I'm going to flip the camera and I will show you. Okay, so here's my branch. And I think I'm going to cut it a bit longer just to get it out. So I'm just going to snip it down here. I'll trim it in a second to show you exactly how long. Cut here. I'll extricate this and then we will trim it down. It is so beautiful. Okay, so this one's actually pretty good. I am just going to trim it because it's almost the right size. So I'm just going to trim it below this leaf node. And the reason we want to do it right by a node is because that tissue there is more likely to make roots. So I'm going to do it on a 45-degree angle. Show you guys that. And then I am just going to remove off that leaf, and I'm going to take off this one, and actually I'm going to take off that one as well. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to dip it in my rooting hormone. Dip it in there. So we have that. And then what I'm going to do, because I have it, and you could in theory just pop this into soil, but I want to make sure I can see what's going on. Like, I don't want to lose this. I'm going to fill up my mason jar with some vermiculite and moisten it because we want to make sure that this is moist for the entire time while this is making its roots. So I'm going to set this aside for a second, and I will be right back. I just also had some of the Pro Mix vermiculite. Any vermiculite is fine. I just happen to like Pro Mix. You use whatever you have or whichever one you prefer. Just filled up 2 mason jars with the vermiculite, and then I put some water in. I'm just letting it soak for a second. While I am doing that, I'm going to find another branch to trim off that I am going to dip in the cinnamon for our experiment. Okay, so the plant did not want to completely cooperate with me, which is understandable. It didn't know about this experiment. I did find another branch. It is shorter. It still has some nice variegation, at least on one of the leaves. I would have liked, honestly, to have had a branch about the same size, but we're gonna have to work with what we have. So I'm going to snip off these bottom 2 branches. I will dip it in the cinnamon, and we will see what happens. Okay, so I have some cinnamon on there. Just pop that down, and I will go and get the jars with the vermiculite, and then we will set this aside, put it under the grow lights, and check back on it in a few days and see what's going on. All right, so 2 containers with vermiculite. A lot of people actually use vermiculite to start their seedlings. I've never really done just vermiculite. I am definitely going to try it for next year. If you have used vermiculite to start your seedlings, let me know down in the comments below, because I would love to know if it worked for you or if it didn't. So I'll take my little cutting and I'm going to get it right down in there. So that is the first one with the cinnamon, and then my beauty, which I'm going to get right down in there. I did leave a bit of water in the bottom of each of these just because you don't want them to dry out, and having not really used the vermiculite, I'm just a little hesitant. I don't know how quickly it loses water, but I'm going to be definitely checking on these every day. I'm not going to be taking them out, but I'm just going to check on the moisture and hopefully see that it is not looking too stressed, and we will hope for the best, because if I can get this one to actually root and then get it into some soil and have this going as a plant, it's just going to be a beautiful one to save seeds from. And the benefit of doing it indoors is I don't have to worry about cross-pollination because I can set this guy separately. And there are no bees buzzing about in here that I have to worry going from this plant to one of my other pepper plants behind me. So we'll leave these guys to do their thing and we will check back on them. Talking about variegation, here's my variegated string of pearls that I also love because, hey, it's variegated. Okay, so it's been a couple weeks. Things are looking good. So here is the precious, still looking beautiful. There are some roots in there, which is a great sign. There's more you can see on the bottom. And so I'm gonna call this a win. The other one, the tiny one, which just had the cinnamon on it, it also has roots. So another great sign. Now we need to get these peppers out of these jars and get them into some pots with some soil so they can continue growing and make me some fish peppers. Can I just say how absolutely stunning this fish pepper is? I mean, the rule is to save the seeds from the prettiest or from the best representation, and I think this is it because this is damn beautiful. All right, so pots. So I have 2 pots. This one's a bottom waterer. It's not looking pretty, but it's clean. And another green one. So I am going to put the bigger plant in this one and the smaller plant in the green one. I have to really clean these because these were outside. And you don't want to bring anything from outside inside without thoroughly cleaning it. So if you want to know how to clean your pots, I'll put a link up above. Even if they're not going inside and outside, you're going to want to make sure you do this after every growing season. So I have my starting trays. I will clean them all before I use them again, just to make sure you're starting with a clean and fresh base. So I have my ProMix soil, which I love. You can use whatever soil that you like. So I'm just gonna get some soil in the bottom. Because we have all of this vermiculite that I've already used with this plant in the mason jar so I could root it, I'm gonna add it in with the soil so it's gonna add some aeration and help with drainage and just not waste anything. So I'm going to very carefully bang on them. I wanna loosen it, but I don't wanna damage any of the roots. Now the nice thing about using the vermiculite is it's light and fluffy. So I'm gonna mix some of this, just dump it in here and just mix it in with the soil. There is a lot of roots in here, which is fantastic. Now, because the roots are gonna need to be placed, I'm gonna leave kind of a hole in the center so that, oh, here we go. Look at that. Just using cinnamon on this guy. So let's get a little bit more of that stuff in there because we know that it likes that. Put that in. And I'm not putting these peppers into giant pots to start. I will pot them up later as they get bigger. And the cool thing about peppers, I mean, at least where I am in Canada, and for most of the US, most of the world really, most people are gonna grow peppers as annuals. I think it was in Africa. I was reading somewhere on one of the, on the Baker Creek website, and there was a mention in there that somebody was over from Africa helping on the farm, and they were asking where the pepper trees were, because where they were from, they actually grow as a perennial, and they can grow into a tree, and if you've had a pepper out all season, sometimes you'll see that it'll get a woody stem on it. So I'm kind of hoping I'm going to keep these ones inside, especially the precious, and just let them keep growing and see if I can kind of keep it going for a couple of years, which I think would be neat, and then just be able to keep harvesting peppers. So there's the first one done in the soil. Now for the next one, because this one was a bigger plant to begin with anyways, it's not going to be a fair comparison to say how much roots did this one have with the rooting hormone versus the other one that had the cinnamon. I can definitely say the cinnamon seems to have worked. It didn't do anything negative because there were some beautiful roots on that. And it's been about 3 weeks since I started these. And like I said, they've been on the rice garden benefiting from the light. And I have just been keeping them moist. That's all I've done. I didn't do anything else. And I am extremely happy. One thing to remember when you're doing this or any other cloning, because that's essentially what this is. We've just taken the branch off the mother. So technically this plant is the same age as the plant that I took it from. So that's why you want to try and do this when things are younger. The same goes if you're doing this for suckers off of a tomato plant. Some more of this out. Okay, so this one has a lot of roots, which is fantastic. Just get this off a little bit because we're going to want to make sure we have some soil in contact with those roots and not just the vermiculite anymore. But look at that. That makes me so happy. This is going to be a beautifully healthy plant. I'm just going to carefully place that in. I'm just kind of holding it where I want it, and then I'm just going to carefully place the soil around. I don't want to pack it in too hard. I'm going to water these in. I'm going to water carefully from the top just so it can kind of push everything down. And then after that, at least for this guy, he'll be watered from the bottom, but we want to make sure everything settles in and that we get the soil all around those beautiful, white, healthy roots. And the nice thing about it, I can have the peppers inside and continue to get peppers because they're self-pollinating. A little shake and a fan never hurt anyone, but they do a good job of pollinating on their own. Just gonna go wash my hands and then we'll do one more thing. Hands are clean, nails, well, my nails are never really clean. There's always dirt under my nails and that's okay. We're calling it a garden manicure. It just means I've had my hands in the soil and I'm growing my own food, which is fine by me. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some of my earth medicine on. This is a microbial fertilizer. I'm just gonna sprinkle it on top and this will help these guys grow nice and strong. I use it outside, I use it inside, I use this stuff everywhere. I have a coupon code that will get you 10% off. I'll put it on the screen and down below in the description if you guys want to check it out. I'll also put a link to the website so you can go and look at it and do your own research on it and see if you think it's right for you. I also have some of this that is for the hydroponic system. I'm going to be doing like a test between that and just water and other nutrients in the AeroGarden sprouts. These are my test units that I use for comparison and doing little experiments. I'm also doing a root trimming video and a couple of other things. I think these guys are done. I'm just going to give them a little bit of a water. Hopefully you guys found that helpful and you learned a little bit on how to root pepper plants from cuttings. If you did find it helpful and if you learned something, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up because the YouTube algorithm loves that, and then that helps me reach more people and just teach more people how to grow their own food. Until next time, don't forget to enjoy the little things and go out there and make food grow. Bye guys. There it is. The brushes. It's so pretty. And the little wee one. Look at it. It's so pretty.